Hello, Anthony. How you doing?
All right, Mr. Porky, how are you?
I'm all right. What you on with?
Good. Having a nice afternoon. Things are a little bit hectic this morning, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden they all quietened down. So, you know,
Yeah.
nice day. I saw you went out on your run. How was that run?
All right, mate. Yeah, 40 minutes. So I've just got back now. Yeah, all right. Went on a bike yesterday and a walk, but today I did a run today. I felt a lot better. You always feel like you've done something when you've been on a run. Bike's like cheating, isn't it?
Oh, well, I'm an avid mountain biker, so I would say no to that. It depends how you bike.
Well, that mountain bike I've got has been stuck in this right high gear. And I always just remember Frotch had this bike and it was just one gear. I think he
Right.
did about 3 grand for it. It wasn't as good as his. It's not as good as his, but and I always used to think, wow, how do you get up these hills in it? Because and then I managed to work it out how it works. So I put it in the light gear yesterday. But oh, this is easy going up hills. But when it was stuck in this high gear, I was like,
Yeah.
but yeah, I
Yeah.
enjoy it. I always feel better after you've done it. Releases endorphins because if not, you just get bogged down, don't you? With boxing wheels.
As I said to you on our last conversation, the hardest thing for humans to be is consistent. And it's good to see that, the level of consistency is there. That's what
Yeah.
produces excellence.
Yeah, well, I am very consistent with my fitness. A bit like when I used to get out my brains all the time. I was very consistent, scoring every day. They
Okay,
all
we've
loved me
all, we've
right
all,
round there. Oh, he comes every day. He's the right spender. Yeah, yeah. What? Not anymore. But right, we'll get straight down to it. No messing. We know where to start, really. Uh, Donovan against Cocker. How did you have it, and why did Marcus McDonald do that, Austin? Anthony, what do you
yeah. Well, let me first say before I answer that, a shout out to all the other commission lads. We've got a WhatsApp group, and we did our first sort of live watch along on the group, and it was excellent
Yeah.
because I think Andy was. I think it's because of his trainer was supporting Donovan, not Donovan, supporting Crocker. I was neutral. I think Jerry was a big Donovan fan because of what's his name? Who comes on your channel? Who was talking him up? Julian was saying that he was very, very good.
Julian,
Yeah,
is
so
that must have been it? Yeah, Julian hadn't been on since 2nd of January last year.
yeah, but he was always said that Paddy Donovan
Oh
is one
yeah,
to
yeah.
watch.
He is, but
That's
he
right.
is. Listen, Paddy Donovan got royally shafted. But when I look at that fight, Marcus McDonald, an in-house ref, I look at Steve Gray, an in-house ref with Skeet Shiraz. So tell me the difference.
Right. Here's what I think happened. We saw an excellent fight, and boxing, as it always does, shoots itself in the foot. That's why some people call it the crack cocaine of sports, because you get incredible highs and then you have the crash when you've got dodgy refereeing, stupid decisions, all kinds of stuff, which we're going to get into. I thought that was an excellent display from Paddy Donovan of what a man who wants to be world level should do. Beautiful southpaw boxing. He had Crocker thinking about lots of things when he let his shots go. I don't know if you saw Porky. He moved off to the right beautifully, neutralizing Crocker's right hand, and he was just doing it all night. There was only ever one winner in that. There were levels difference. Now, what's the problem? The problem is from day one, the refereeing was atrocious and both fighters took advantage. Okay. If I go back to the Beterbiev Bivol fight, does anybody remember the referee in either of the fights?
No, because he stayed out at way and let him get at it.
Correct. The problem that you had in this fight, in my opinion, is that Crocker is being shown up to be very crude. So what he does, he puts a high guard, he leans forward, and he just marches or tried to march Donovan down. Now, with a fighter on his level, that works, but clearly Paddy Donovan was levels above. And the problem that you had is that Paddy wasn't giving ground. So what happens is you're going to get a high frequency of heads coming together. That is because it's both men, not what Paddy was doing, but both men. And immediately you could see that the referee immediately jumps on Paddy. I think it was up to the second round. He'd already given him a very stern warning, and then a final warning, and then he started taking points.
Mm.
Now, because Crocker's style was to come forward with his head, he realizes that the only person who's getting penalized is his opponent.
Yeah.
Now, as fighters, when they're in a hard fight and a firefight that they're losing and they're looking for every single competitive advantage, he's going to play up to the referee. So, in other words, what is happening is because of the unfair refereeing, in my opinion, that referee threw petrol on a fire that was already raging. And my perception is that he could have done a number of things differently. Yes, he could have warned Paddy as he did, but also he could have brought them together and says, gentlemen, you're both leading with your heads. We can't have this, and I will take a point from both of you if it continues. Let's have none of the heads. Let's have a clean fight. And immediately that puts Crocker on notice that he can't, in my opinion, game the system, because I think it's your opinion that he was looking for a way out at the end as the fight moved on,
It was
but he's
first
able to,
firefighter being in Crocker, wasn't it?
correct, and he was able to game the system. And I thought it was outrageous. That refereeing performance was out there. Do you remember Tony Perez when he refereed Ray Mercer and Tommy Morrison? And he let Morrison basically take a murder standing up. That is how bad I felt that refereeing was.
Not as
Simply
bad as Montel Griffin, Roy Jones, and Dewell Arthur Abraham, though, were it?
no. And there's a few others as well. Who was that? What's he? Cuban kid that Pernell Whitaker fought, who he was able to literally club to death. Can't remember. Let me look it up.
I
Remember his
forget
name?
now. I forget
I
now.
can't
They'll
remember his
tell us in
name.
comment section. Kent will know that one.
Yeah, and what happened is he's clearly knocked out. Is Hortodo? That's who it is. He fought. You could look that one's to be looked up. But the problem that we've got, Porky, is that what are we doing with these referee decisions? Because the referees are there to enforce the rules and have a clean fight that everybody enjoyed. And we were enjoying that fight.
Yeah.
But what you saw in our group is gradually we were saying, hang on a second, why is the referee only penalising Donovan?
Mm. Because the Cocker's the big ticket seller, and he's Eddie Hills's guy, isn't he?
Porky, it left a very, very bad taste in the mouth because we were all enjoying the fight.
There you go.
And when the conclusion came and he was thrown out, literally the whole, I think I actually sent you the screenshot. Everybody was, what the F moment? Because we have just had a beautiful conclusion to a good fight that has shown us what we need to know. And then the moment's been spoiled because somebody has got it wrong. And in my opinion, I think the referee allowed his ego and the actual occasion to get to him. Let me illustrate that, Porky. If this same fight had happened in Riyadh, I don't reckon the referee would have thrown Donovan out. I'll tell you why.
He
The
wants to be able to go
atmosphere,
back there again. None of them refs going out there want to be controversial, do they?
number one, but also number two, the atmosphere played a part because obviously you've got Paddy Donovan from the Southern Ireland, you've got Crocker, a Northern Ireland. I was having a chat with Jerry just before the fight on the group, and he was saying, we're going to have a little bit of a sectarian type of atmosphere in there. It was like a cauldron, right? Now, my issue with is this. This is what I think he should have done, right? It's clear that Crocker was coming to the end. He couldn't see, and in my opinion, he was either going to get pulled out between the rounds or they were going to throw the towel in, or the referee himself would have stopped it. Okay. You then have the incident where he's knocked down, he gets back up, and Paddy's going for the finish. And is the final blow after the bell?
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. But here's the issue. I would have said it's a disqualification if Crocker had stopped fighting. He then gets hit by Donovan. That's a disqualification because clearly his opponent stopped fighting. That didn't happen. Both fighters were still fighting after the bell, which made me perceive, obviously we weren't there, that neither of them had heard the bell in the atmosphere, right? Now, the referee has got a number of options. Number one, it's at the end of the round, right? So he doesn't need to take any decision until the beginning of the next round. And in my view, his most important job is the welfare of the fighter. So the grounded fighter, he sees if that's all right, okay? He has then got he's got a minute before he needs to make a decision, okay? Within the rules of boxing, if there's a late blow, the down fighter is allowed 5 minutes, if I'm correct. Is that right? Is that right, Porky? Right. So all of a sudden, he could then say, right, this is a late blow, 5 minutes for Crocker to do that. He could have then turned to Paddy and say to Paddy, that's a late blow. I've already taken 2 points off of you.
Another two.
I'm going to take another 1 or another 2 off of you for that late blow.
He should have let that had a minute to calm down, to get his thoughts together, instead of trying to make it about him, because that's what he does, McDonnell. He makes it all about him. He gave Joshua every opportunity in that Dubois fight. Even when he got flattened, he never gave it as a knockdown. Did you remember when it fought
Correct.
down? He did everything he could to give the home fighter the advantage. And that's what McDonnell does. He's a matchroom guy. Steve Gray's a Queensbury guy. Randy Newman, which I spoke about last night with Bob, in the Miranda Abraham 1 fight, he was a Sauerland man. Do you see a fucking pattern here?
Yeah, Porky. And it's really concerning for fans like you and me, because we don't want to tune in to find out what faux pas the referee is going to do to decide the fight. We want the fighters to decide the fight. And we were completely robbed of that on Saturday. And not only that, Paddy Donovan fought beautifully. That is an absolute masterclass on how to hit and not get hit, and how to work out what your opponent is doing and spinning off, limiting the damage you're taking from a guy that's
what happened to protect yourself at all times.
Yeah, well, the thing is that yes, it's a late blow, but the point is both Crocker and Donovan were fighting after the bell. And I think I saw the podcast you did with Bob. He actually says that, there's sometimes you don't hear things in the panic of Correct. Or in the thick of things. And in that arena there, put it this way, I remember keep telling you I was at the Gerald McClellan Nigel Benn fight. I did not hear the bell. I didn't hear the bell. And as I said to you, I had a friend and my friend then commented, he says, I know why we've got rounds. It's so the crowd could get their breath back. And I don't remember hearing the bell going in that fight. It was such a crescendo in the London arena. My perception is this was a very similar atmosphere, and the referee is there to have an objective control of the fight. And my view is he wasn't controlling the fight, and his ego got in the way. And in other words, he had a strop. The easiest way for him to control the fight, Porky, is simple. Get time out, get both fighters in and say there's too much heads in this. I don't want it. And I will take points off of both of you because you need to keep the heads out. And he didn't do that. And because he didn't do that, what happens is the losing fighter was gaming him because as soon as he's getting hit, he complained about everything. In fact, I wondered whether he had become a football baller player in the middle of the fight.
We're looking for a way out, wasn't he? That's how it right. He'd never been in a firefight. He wanted out of there. Now his trainer Billy Nelson's saying because they've got the win, they're going to be fighting Boots Ennis next and not Cocker. So there you go.
What a
That's Billy
surprise.
Nelson for you.
Shocker. Shocker.
Just come
Billy
out and said
Nelson's
it now in an interview.
right. I think you sent me the message. Look, that's outrageous. And you got to ask about the integrity of somebody like Billy Nelson because number
Oh,
one,
but when it suits him, we want to go for a world title. Well, what about doing what's right, Billy? Hey, but then again, you wouldn't know about that, would you? With your the Coley mess and all that, and what you were doing with Ricky Burns with his money and all that, weren't you? You wronging Billy Nelson, absolute wronging.
I would agree with that because the Bacoli fight was an absolute farce and shouldn't have happened. And now we've had this fight, and immediately, look, let's put it this way: his fight has been the level of his fighter has been exposed because we now know when he's gone up against a slick operator, his fighter is levels below. What they've been gifted is a win and a world title shot. And you know, and I know, Porky, if we had that rematch, exactly the same is going to happen because it's the old boxing adage of
They're going to
levels.
do what they're doing with Dave Allen, Johnny Fisher, aka the Lazy Rhino, and Daddy Fudd's son, Big Elmer.
Yeah. So what I think they're going to do is they're going to take that. And here's the point anyway. If he's not handling Donovan, I've heard rumors that Boots Ennis is going to move up. Have you heard that?
No, I haven't heard that.
Right.
This is how you've got to look at it, right? If they put Donovan in with Cocker, right, Donovan beats him again, right, but even badlier, right?
Yeah.
So then the world title shot goes. But if they put Cocker in with Boots Ennis, he gets knocked out, and the Donovan fight's always there.
Correct. And
So they still get two bites at cherry, don't they, Eddie?
correct.
Hills.
This is what's spoiling boxing, Porky, isn't it? Because
Yeah,
what happens
killing it
is
off.
that we have had extremely poor refereeing now, three major fights in a row. And come on, Porky. I'm normally trying to calm you down. We've had Hamza Shiraz, dodgy refereeing and scoring, right? We've now had Cocker and Donovan, extremely poor refereeing, which has changed completely the outcome of the fight. And now, right, with the Tank Davis fight, fighters are allowed to have their own timeouts. I mean,
It's been
what
going
can I
on for
say?
years. Listen, Anthony, right? It's been going on for years. I said before, and I'll say it again, and I said it to Bob. Do you remember the worst one I've ever seen refereeing is Randy Newman, Arthur Abraham, Edison Miranda 1. People need to go and watch that if you don't believe what I'm talking about. The referee, Randy Newman, stops the fight early in the fight and declares Edison Miranda the winner.
The winner,
Big
correct.
Willie Sowland jumps up. Big Willie's jumped up. No, no, you can't do that. Carry on, carry on. He's not the winner. You carry on. So Newman's gone, so they carried on and proceeded to take 5 points off Edison Miranda throughout the fight. So they can take more than 2 points out in a fight. We have a thing in England. Once they've gone by losing 2 points, any other foul they commit, they never take it to a third. They always disqualify him, even though there's different offences that you can get points took off your scorecards for. So he went up to 5 points in the Miranda fight, but he didn't need him anyway because the judges ruled in favour of of Abraham, even though he got on his bike for the full fight. Do you see where I'm coming from? So corruption and incompetence has always been there, but boxing's so subjective that we never get to speak to these refs. They never come out and explain anything. And whenever we're questioning a scorecard or a decision, there's always another answer from their point of view. It's subjective, isn't it? You know? Yeah.
What I think, Porky, is that for casual fans as well as hardcore fans, we've got to know that all sporting endeavors are a form of mass control, right? The reason that sports stars are paid so much money is to create public attention, right? Boxing being one of them. Okay. So there's always an element of control that they want people to have. I mean, you and I are old enough to remember whenever an Ali fight was coming up, literally the whole world would stop, wouldn't it, for those fights? Boxing isn't like that anymore because you've got other sports like football, American football, you've got tennis, etc., etc. But the problem that you've got is that boxing is outrageously corrupt in terms of the decisions. Let me illustrate it by using athletics. We all remember Usain Bolt. Remember in the 2008 Olympics, he's won the 100 meters and was it 25, 30 meters out? He's got his hands down, banging his chest while running a world record. Is it 969 that he did? Which was an unbelievable feat. No one had ever seen that level of dominance in the 100 meters. The year after, he then runs even faster and runs
958.
9.5 in Berlin, right? I don't even remember. The next big meet after that was the World Championships in Daegu in 2011. Do you remember what happened, Porky?
What?
Right. Usain Bolt false starts, right? He false starts and immediately he went, oh, a word. He takes off his shirt and throws it on the ground because he knows he's going to be disqualified. Because as soon as you false start now, you're disqualified. So you've got every single man and their dog watching that fight, and the main superstar is now out. But that preserved the integrity of that sport. In boxing, what we've seen in the refereeing decisions now is the equivalent of Usain Bolt being reinstated, and they said, "Oh, we're going to ignore that false start, and we're going to let him run anyway."
They did the
It,
same thing to Carl Lewis, though, didn't they? Olympic final.
correct. In the Olympic final with Carl Lewis, what they did is that they gave him the gold medal, even though at the American trials he had tested dirty. That's just
No, I'm not on
outrageous.
about that. I'm on about years later. Uh,
Which one was
when he
that?
had a false start years later, didn't he?
I didn't know that. I don't know that one. I can't remember which one that was.
I'm not
Right,
sure
but
if it was 96 or 92 he had a false. I think it might have been 92 he had a false start. I have to check that.
right, okay. But the point is that most sports are at least having an adherence to their rules. Whereas with boxing, yes, boxing is subjective, but the point is, Porky, the referee's job is to ensure a fair fight and to keep the keel even. And he wasn't doing that. What was Crocker in that fight um, pulled up for? Was there anything that the referee warned him about? Porky, was there
No,
anything, do you think? Right.
no,
Well,
no.
how can that be? Because he was leading with his head as well as Donovan. Donovan was reacting to what he was doing.
Yeah.
And you just think, well, what I don't understand, Porky, and maybe you could tell me, is that at some point, when you get a beautiful spectacle like this, it just leaves the fans so deflated that they're going to run from boxing. They're either going to go to MMA, as Bob was saying, or they're going to look for their thrills out elsewhere, or people stop betting on the fights simply because you don't know what the referee's going to do next. You know, it's unbelievable. You know, I thought that our evening was truly spoiled, and I think that
Go
I
on.
tell you what I think was funny is that Jerry was having a drink, and I tell you what, when that disqualification came through, I'm sure some of those cans hit the wall because he was not a happy man.
Tell me about it.
Oh, look, and I agree with him. I was neutral and I just wanted to see a good fight, and I was very deflated that the rightful conclusion was taken away from us. Why does he need to disqualify the kid? Look at people like Lawrence Okoli. I'm not being funny. He hugs fighters more than he does his girlfriend, and he's never been slung out of a fight, has he?
No.
Right. So why on an eliminator, which is the pinnacle of both these kids' careers, do you have to have such a decision? And then what happens is now they've got that decision. as you say, Billy Nelson is running for the hills with his fighter to see if they can get a world title fight. I think it's completely wrong, and boxing never does itself any favors.
No, he just failed to qualify for 100 meters at 200-meter race as Carl Lewis in
Right.
'92. Olympia Christie won it in '92, didn't he?
Yes, that was the
Oh.
Barcelona, isn't it?
Yeah,
The
he won
100
long
meters.
jump though, didn't he?
Oh, yeah, I think so, yeah. But the point is that at least they were adhering to the sports, even though their big sports star had disqualified himself. What you find is that we are disqualifying kids, and that there is an extremely strong argument that both of them didn't hear the bell because they were both fighting.
They were both in the thick of the action, weren't they? But in my opinion, Cocker were looking for a way, Crocker, or whatever they call him. He was looking for a way out.
He was. At the end, he was, because he threw himself on the floor at the end. And here's my opinion: if the referee had done what I said, in other words, wait for a minute to decide anything,
Mm.
given Crocker is 5 minutes, taken a point off of Donovan, I still reckon that the Crocker's corner would have pulled him out during those 5 minutes. They'd have
Well,
waited the
Billy
5 minutes.
Nelson, are you having a laugh? He wouldn't have pulled him out, Billy Nelson. They'd have been looking for fouling and all that and to get the guy DQ'd. That's how these people work. All Billy Nelson is about, and he's shown us in the last
Right.
few weeks, he's about pound notes. He's not about he's trading in meat. He's taking fighters to meat market. He'd have left Crocker in there and took him to meat market, just like he put Bacoli in, who were fat as a pig, Mitchell in man. It's as simple as that. You don't put a man who's that big and fat and unfit and not sparred in 6 months in with a guy like Parker who's at the top of his game, dear, a former champion. Come on. These people
No.
should Billy Nelson should have his license took off him as a trainer and a manager. Who's going to want to work with him now? He can't be trusted around fighters, him. He's a meat trader.
I'd agree with that, Porky.
And all these people coming out saying Billy Nelson's a pal of mine and all this. He's nobody's pal. Money's his pal. He's nobody's pal. He ain't got any pals now. We've seen what he's about. He's not to be trusted with fighters. Period. But nobody's going to say a fucking word. Only me and you, lads.
Where do you think Paddy Donovan goes from here, Porky?
Well, if he hasn't got Cocker, he's just got to go back to drawing board and come back again with Andy Lee, flavour of the month. He's got best trainer in the world. So they're all saying, well, come back again then if you've got best trainer. Look at that fight as you were robbed and go again. That's what you do. You go again, don't you? You know, a 2-year-old kid, when he falls down on the floor, what does he do? He gets
Just
up.
get,
So a
yeah.
26-year-old man can do the same thing, can't he? If a 2-year-old can.
Mm. I've heard, I think I saw, and I don't know if this is accurate though, but I was reading an article just before I came on where they were saying that Boots Ennis might move up, and what Eddie Hills is aiming for is perhaps a rematch for the IBF welterweight championship. I mean,
For who?
for both of them, both the rematch, Crocker and
What if
Donovan to
Boots
rematch.
Ennis moves up?
Yes,
Well, that'd be by default then, wouldn't it, really? They'd be,
yeah.
they'd be a paper champion by email or by default, wouldn't they?
Yeah, but he said the rematch would be for the actual welterweight
Yeah,
belt.
but
And
paired of them 1 and 2 rank with IBF.
I don't know. I don't know, but
It surprised me if they were 1 and 2. If not, I'm sure they could lobby and get them into position. That's what they're doing it. So basically,
and
they're buying belts for fighters, aren't they?
correct. And Eddie Hills, as I said, he was being
Hills.
fence sitting. Look, my view is this: when you've done the work and you have the skills, the fight is the reckoning of what should have happened. And boxing does itself a huge disservice when fight after fight after fight. We've had three in a row now where there's a huge controversy about what we've seen. And again, only boxing's the only sport I know that does it so overtly. Why?
I don't know, mate. I don't know. You tell me. I don't know.
Is it because the level of greed in the fight game is just bigger than everywhere else? I don't know, because nobody ever seems to do the right thing in boxing. And again, I understand, and certainly now, I spoke too soon. I share your frustration, because I thought that the Shiraz was an outrage, and it caused questions to be asked.
Nobody's mentioning on YouTube. These YouTubers not mentioning to all these people. Well, look at Steve Gray with Shiraz and Skeet, and these refs. They always seem to side with home time, whether they're hit after bell or if they're not it's after bell. If Cocker had done the same thing to Donovan after bell, no, it would have happened. They would have called
Correct.
it
I'd agree with that.
out.
The other downside of that, Porky, is that they also, if the home fighter's in trouble, you get the home fighter hurt. Because as I said to you, I think a few podcasts back, when Big Meech got floored by John Coffey at the end of the first round, he was counted, and then he actually fell into the referee's arms just before the bell went. The
Let me
referee
just
should have
stop you there.
waved
Let
that
me just
off.
stop you there, Anthony. Right? Let me just stop you there. Let me tell you about hometown cooking and hometown referees. Terry O'Connor, hometown cooking, Huey Fury Parker. But let's back up a little bit before then. Terry O'Connor refereed Kovalev fight between Kovalev and Nathan Cleverly. Kovalev put Cleverly on button moon, and at the end of the round, what happened? Terry O'Connor carried him back to the corner, mate. Carried him back to the fucking corner and placed him on his seat in front of my eyeballs. I was like that. And that's hometown cooking. Bricktop's hometown guy got absolutely poleaxed, and he carried him back to the corner. Didn't that right, Terry O'Conman Connor? And go and watch that on YouTube, all you hardcores, if you don't believe me. Carried him back to the fucking corner. Jesus Christ. Ah!
How can we call boxing a sport if that's what we're doing?
Corrupt. It's knee deep in corruption. They're all trying to look what they've got now. They've got a bit of controversy, and this is what Eddie Hills, the 7-0 Iceman from Billericay, 5 by way off, fresh after his TKO over Ben Shalom, Adrian Mowell. Look, these people, these A-star referees, they're getting plenty of that paid. They're getting flown about. They think they're in the ring fighting. A good referee you don't see. You never saw Frank Cappuccino in Ward Gatti, did you? He stayed out at Wade, didn't he? Jeez.
Here's a question, Porky.
Crazy, this sport.
Clearly, we need to change the relationship between the referees and the promoters. How do you think that we could make the sport more accountable? What can be done?
I think what should be done. We need to start making referees come out and do interviews about the performance. If they've done a good performance, come out and explain it. If you've done a bad performance, come out and explain it. A fighter, good performance or bad, he's got a microphone shoved in his face. Well, the referee's in there with him, so he should come out and explain it. So should the judges. Just come out and be transparent. That's all we want, a bit of transparency in the sport. And I want to see demotions for bad performances. It's not rocket science. If you do a bad performance in Premier League, they demote you to Championship. Why can't we do that in the sport of boxing instead of these referees that are hometown cooking to stay favourable to promoters? It's been going on for far too fucking long.
Yeah.
And none of these YouTubers are going to come out and speak about it like me. Because they all need to stay in the mix, don't they, to get a few quid? Because they don't know how to get on in life outside of YouTube. God.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's rocket science, is it? It's fucking... drive me mad.
In the end, it will erode the sport. The reason being is that you're not going to get the big high rollers betting on the fights, simply because the referee can have an extremely bad day, and that changes the outcome of the fight. Because my view is that
I'll leave
certainly
you
with
with
the
this one,
prop.
shall I, Anthony? What
Yeah,
we're on here, right? I'll leave you with this, right? We'll finish off on this. Hamzat Shiraz, right, and Adames, they gave it as a draw, yeah? That's a brick top fighter getting a draw. When
right.
have we ever heard a brick top fighter get a draw on brick top, come out and say, well, it could have gone either way? He's normally screaming blue murder if it's a draw, a mandatory or a split decision, or his fighter losing by 2 rounds. He's always screaming for his guy. But on this one, he's like, well, it could have gone either way. You know, he got tongued. He got tongued by about 8, 9 rounds. That's what I don't want to see. Utter BS. I don't like BS. It's a disease. And I'm the cure. Me, Big P.
Yeah, no, it's not right. Are you going to do a second part, or do you want to talk about the Tank Davis fight in this
Yeah,
the
go on,
end
then
of
we'll do
here?
a second part. Yeah. Can you give me what time is it now? Let's have a
Yeah,
look.
yeah. What I'll do,
Can you give me two
I'll talk.
o'clock? Two
Yeah,
o'clock,
yeah.
yeah.
What I'll do is I'll
I
talk
can
about the
only
Tank
do,
Davis.
in fact, we'll do
In
5 to 2, and I can do 20 minutes, yeah?
Yeah, yeah, that's fine.
Brilliant. I'll
Yeah,
see
so
you at 5 to
Porky,
2, yeah?
yeah, Porky, I really, as a boxing fan, I got to admit, you just shake your head. Why do we deserve 3 shows on the bounce where there's controversy that we have to talk about? Why do we deserve it? We don't see that in tennis or things like that, which is again a global sport. Talking about that, look at all the other. Well, I'll go through all the other manipulations, but you know, and I know in tennis, the issue is the line
Yeah,
calls,
go on.
correct?
Yeah,
So
go
what
on.
they did with the line calls is they bring out that Hawkeye, and then each player is allowed, I think it's 3 challenges, and they bring it up, and then that's it. And if the player's right, they still have their 3 challenges. If the player's wrong, they lose it. So each set, I think they allowed 3 challenges for line calls, right? And what that does is it creates a very level playing field. And what happens is that you may get one player who's under the cosh and he might challenge a call that's clearly out, but he then loses the right to do so on a call that may be wrong. We don't get that in boxing. We don't have referees, or we rarely have referees that objectively referee the fight, apply the laws, and ensure a fair opportunity for both fighters. And I think it's a festering problem in our sport, Porky, and that's why we need, the commission and the other channels that are saying, "Well, hang on a second, why is this happening?" Because he does not need to disqualify Donovan. He doesn't need. He could take off another point. He could give the guy more thing and let the fight go to its conclusion. That it was only concluding one way, which was a stoppage win for Donovan, because the guy's eye was closed. He's not seeing. He wasn't handling what was being given anyway. He's not going to handle it with one eye.
Okay. Well, listen, I'll see you at 5 to, and I've got to leave you at 20 past, all right?
Good. All
I'll
right,
see
then.
you
So
at
five
5
to
to.
two. What we'll do is we'll have a talk about the Tank Davis fight and everything else.
Okay, mate.
Shout out to all the other commission lads.
All right.
Speak later. Thanks a
In a
lot,
bit.
Porky, for your
Cheers, mate.
time.
Bye.
Bye
Thanks
bye.
for liking us. Cheers. Thanks for liking and subscribing and leaving a comment. I'll see you at 5 to 2 for a 25 minute. All right. Pop, pop, bang.